Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS, explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy. The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS, explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters.
Hey, monkey boy. This time I can prove the Israelites weren't black using ChatGPT. Ha!
So that's what we're doing now? Using AI?
What was that? I couldn't hear you over that smoke alarm chirp you people can't hear. Say that again?
Hilarious and original.
Hilarious and original. Hilarious and original. Hilarious and original.
I said, is that what we're doing now? Using AI to prove who the Israelites are?
That's exactly what we're doing, and I'll show you, boy.
Oh, brother.
2 hours later.
Your room still stinks.
Look at how easily ChatGPT debunks everything you chimps have to say. Ha! You was not kings, and you was not Israelites.
If we're going to use AI, then let's at least use an AI that's trained on the Bible without the Masoretic mistranslations or any agendas and actually tells us the truth.
Liar, there's no such thing.
I'll show you. Let's use Israelite Bot. Go to IsraeliteBot.com and ask the same thing.
Fine, but I bet it'll say the same thing as ChatGPT. No! No!
You see? I told you.
No!
And it shows biblical proof.
No! This is preposterous. I hate this website. It's all wrong.
Stop crying.
Your website sucks.
Shalom, salama, siyami, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. So yes, family. My voice is still. It's about. I'm going to say 90%. I got to use my voice all the time, so I don't see it recovering. Um, Probably fully for another. I would say another couple of days. It's starting to get there, but yeah, change in weather, everything. Try not to stress out, but the stress comes with the job. But as much as I try to say, I don't stress, I don't try to stress, I don't think I'm stressing. Just because what you say or what you try to do and what you are doing unconsciously, it'll mess you up. It'll manifest itself. And understand in this season, a lot of people are dealing with the stresses of life, some differently than others, some, you know, other conditions, other concerns. And so this season, the funny thing is that last year I kind of went through a bout around the same exact time. It was interesting, and it was funny as I was talking to one of my spiritual cohorts, and I was saying, last time this year I had the same thing. I had an anxiety attack. Never had an anxiety attack like that. Never had a panic attack like that. When I had woken up, I was getting rashes because of the anxiety, the stress. And one of the things is that I knew why the enemy was attacking me, but I had to learn, and I'm still learning. You don't just wake up and, oh, I got over this, I got over that, and you know, it's a brand new me, a brand new day type of thing. No, it's a continued understanding, a continued renewing of the mind, a continued renewing of our strength. The funny thing is that as soon as I had called for support on the shipping container, and I made that call to the community, the attack just bam, it came on. And that, unlike last year, this year was a little different because I understood and I got the firsthand look and knowledge. And keep in mind, this isn't that I've never seen the Most High move before. I have plenty of times. But this was the first time that it was like, wow, the power and how he moved was so great that the enemy could understand how big of the assignment I was getting ready to embark on, because that was a week after Dr. Ericana had invited me on out to Burkina Faso as part of the ADDI delegation of the African diaspora. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with some things, so I have to put myself on mute. So let me tell you, part of my panic was honestly, I didn't want to go. But I knew that I was going to go. I knew I was going to head on out there. And I knew that I was going to go and head on out there because the Most High literally had provided for me to go on out there in less than 2 weeks after the call was made to the community. And with that, I wasn't really excited at all. Members of the board were really excited. They're like, yeah, these funds are gonna come. Yahuwah's got us in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. I mean, they were making the declarations, and I was like, yay, okay, yay. I was more half-hearted. And where I was thinking with a certain objective. I need to get this done, this done, this done. See, understand the shipping container, the drive isn't just something that's new. The shipping container drive was something that had been, we had worked on that for the last, I would say, around 18 months. And, to raise $50,000, that's quite a chunk of change. And let's just be honest, last year and 18 months ago, to raise that amount of funds, it was like, well, for what? Things aren't bad just yet. For what? I'm still comfortable in my cars, in my house. I'm still comfortable making a mortgage payment. I'm still comfortable paying my bills. I'm still comfortable. In my job. And it's interesting because a lot of those comforts are now being taken away. Because the reality is that those comforts were They're a fallacy. And what we should have really qualified that comfort with would be based on the standard of what we just witnessed in the hands off protest. You're comfortable because you had been allowed to be comfortable because they were still comfortable. You're able to live like that because they were still able to live like that without any type of a worry or care, knowing that you were a buffer and a warning signal to them. So the moment that they had been threatened, that their comfort was going to be imperiled and in jeopardy, that's when a lot of them, their people, were trying to organize the protests. See, the protests had been organized a couple weeks, couple months after the November election. There had been demonstrations of protest way before last Saturday's event. And the draw was, well, segregation. And that backfired. Segregation. Uh-oh, da da da. Will that be the key word? Will that be what spiritually resonates in them? And the reality is that it didn't. So now, as all of these things are coming through, it really did not take the cake for them until they literally started to breathe the thought of taking away Social Security, SSDI, and VA benefits. That's when, to them, the proverbial all hell had broken loose. And even in that manner of Social Security, SSDI, and VA benefits, it still didn't move us. Because statistically speaking, we do not lead in any of those demographic categories. They do. If we needed to take care of our family members, so be it. If I needed to make sure that I needed to get my dad out of the long term care facility, then guess what? I was going to have a plan of care. Because that's what we do. We will get it figured out, come hell or high water, and we'll ask the Most High to give us the understanding of how to do it. So when I look at the protest, you have to understand that they know that the popularity of America, quote unquote, has waned or reduced. They know that they're no longer as wanted. They know that they've really been rejected on the world scene, and they're going to try to find some way to get back into the graces of the international spotlight. But in order to do that, they have to, number one, try to demonstrate that they can do it without us. And then it would be, well, we're the ones that's leading everything. And see, you all had to come on over here. And honestly, for the last couple centuries, that's actually been a lie. And that fallacy is even in their own logical fallacy that they use to even discount the transatlantic slave trade. Remember, they got us. We weren't coming over here looking for them. Let me go ahead and shackle myself to the floor of these slave ships. Let me go ahead and voluntarily take a ticket to where I may die on the voyage. See, they have a logical fallacy. And the logical fallacy is they think that we, before segregation, oh, we just needed them, needed them, needed them. No, not really. We understood. Our forefathers knew the assignment. We could get things done. We just had to do things in a very austere manner, because if we did too many things, if we were too vibrant, if we were too audacious, if we were bringing in too much money. See, understand that back in that day, if somebody had all the monies and the funds, guess what they do? They would diversify it and the wealth would get split up. Because they knew, man, if I'm carrying too much on these balances, guess what? I'm a target. There was no hoarding like you have today. That's what they do. If you don't believe me, that's why they don't like to do a deep dive analysis in Greenwood with all the millionaires. Because those millionaires weren't hoarding and lording over things. They were making the economy work. They were making the economy vibrant. They were keeping the dollar within the economy. Because why? Because they knew that that dollar was an investment, was a circulation, and that circulation was growing wealth through the resources of collaboration, and the collaboration was impacting other communities all around the country, to include places like Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, St. Louis, New Orleans, Denver, you name it. They weren't just circulating wealth within Tulsa, they were circulating wealth inside and outside of Tulsa. That's why they were so dangerous. Man, let me move this money here. Let me move this money here. Let me move that money there. They weren't trying to be the Daddy Warbucks. Hey, if everybody looks like Daddy Warbucks, then guess what? I'm just blending in with what everybody's wearing. If everybody's looking fresh, I'm just blending in. If everybody's looking sharp, I'm just blending in. If everybody's looking, nice and clean, I'm just blending in. But here's the thing, they were able to do something extraordinary, cataclysmic, that it was so frightening to the American psyche that they literally had to burn down Greenwood and other Black communities that were working in a different economy. You want to know what they did? They had the courage. They had the courage to reach out. They had the courage to say, you know what? I'll put my funds up. I don't know what it's going to get me, but I know what this could lead to. And you know what? For about 30, 40 years, there was literally a generation that prospered. 30, 40 years. They got there in the 1880s, 1890s, they built it up. And then by the late, around 1920s, they burnt it down. It was burnt down. See, I would argue that the manner of segregation and to desegregate was to initiate a level of control to ensure that our finances were always moderated. Because why? Because when you had to integrate, guess what integrated with the bodies? The money. The money. And as the money's integrated, the lack of monetary control became more and more and more apparent. The final step of the integrative process, in my opinion, was to get everyone on the get rich quick scheme of stocks. Get your portfolio on what? On companies that they own. Not on companies we own. They own. So then what was happening? You've now had 100 years. This is what it was. It's 100 years of a deconstruction, of a fragmentation of wealth in the United States. When it comes to so-called Black folks here. Because in order to make it work, they had to sweeten up the game. See, we're going to bring in Asians, we're going to bring in Caribbeans. We're going to bring in South Americans. We're going to bring in more Europeans. We're going to bring in even Africans. It was always the buffer. It was always the buffer. Don't get it twisted. For all the folks that came on over here from the various corners of the world, from the 1960s, 70s, and later, that time frame, don't get it twisted. That 14th Amendment showdown is still happening. It just hasn't gone anywhere. It's still on the books. It just hasn't been processed yet to be reviewed. Trust me, when that gets on the Supreme Court's docket, it's always a ramp up. It's a ramp up. It's a ramp up. They already told you what they're going to do. It's just that when they ramp up to do it, people are going to be like, I never knew that was going to happen. I never knew. Did he not say that like back in January 2025? Yeah, but did he not say that America has a huge debt and that he was going to have to trim some fat and this was going to naturally occur? Yeah, but our people played themselves in the fallacy of comfort. Because there's different levels of comfort. You can live and be comfortable, or you can live extravagantly. Depending on what you have done for the system and how you've been a useful, productive member of society. That's what they call it. But now everybody is in this storm. And now is the time that we have to be courageous in this storm. You know, yesterday when I was talking in that conversation, they said, Brother Karras, what is your fear? And now understand, for QTUA, I had been beat up, lied on, undermined, backstabbed. You name it, it's happened to me. And what I had to do was I had to understand how the Most High was moving. Because there is the power of life and death in your words. And what the enemy tries to have you do is to throw yourself off of the path that the Most High has set, not just in your heart, but in the heart of his people. See, the biggest thing that we have been accustomed to over these 4 centuries has been self sabotage. Nah, you can't do it. Nah, you'll never do it. Now look at the position you're in. Now look at this and that. And you have to understand, no, that's exactly where the Most High needs you, because you have to be equipped for his service, for his kingdom. You have to be given the keys to the kingdom. It's not just dangled on out there. Here you go. You got to go through the fire. You got to go through some refinement. You got to go through some volatility. You got to go through some uncomfort, discomfort, uncomfortable situations. Because why? Because it's not about your situation. Excuse me. It's about how you serve him. And as I was talking about the situation, you gotta have people cut you. You gotta have people cut you. Because if you don't get cut by somebody, nah, that's not good. You have to have somebody cut on you as you're cutting on others. This is in Proverbs chapter 3. And I had gotten convicted. Verse 5, trust in Yahuwah with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. I have to always keep that in mind in this undertaking. And it's not just me, we have to understand that, understand and trust. But in order to be trusting, you have to be courageous in walking in that path that the Most High set out. Because over the last, I'm going to say 100 years, yes, we are a courageous people. But when we face one another, our courage is gone. Our courage becomes shot. Why? Well, I don't know what people are going to say. I don't know what people are going to do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Why? You don't need to know anything. All you need to know is trust in Yahuwah with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding. Here's the thing, I don't know. But I know what? He knows. I know this. Yahusha knows. I know this. Yahuwah is going to deliver us. I know this. Yahuwah opens doors. I know this. Yahuwah directs my path and your path and all those that trust in him and all those that acknowledge him. I don't have to say much. Do you all understand what this container means? Garth and I stepped out to Burkina Faso in faith. And we ended up being recognized by the president of that country in the highest levels of that office. Because the country had faith in us to deliver a medical container. Faith is. Faith is. Faith is an action. This is how you know that you see people that come in the chats and they do not back up. Well, you just have to have faith, and I'm just going to sit there. What? Faith is actually knowing, okay, Father, I thank you for the favor. Because why? It's a work of my hands that's going to do what? To honor and glorify you. There is a do requirement. We have to do things. There is a do. There's an action component. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, then you don't have to do it. But they'll probably be the first one saying, "Oh, I got I got my go bag ready when this place falls." And it's not to deride our people on hypocrisy, because we were all living in hypocrisy, in this hypocrisy. Understanding our brainwashing in Babylon will take us literally years to process. So we do the best we can with what we know. But if we don't know, guess what? Verse says in verse 7 right here, Proverbs chapter 3, be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yahuwah and depart from evil. All I know is when I serve the Most High righteously, I don't know. I don't know everything. And I'm glad I don't know everything, because if I had known everything of how this walk was going to be, how this move was going to be, how this sacrifice was going to be, I would have probably been like, I don't know. It shall be health to the navel and marrow to thy bones. Honor Yahuwah with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thine increase. Do you just sit there and just get an increase? I'm going to play the stock market. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father, to play the stock market. I'm going to honor you with my margins, my calls, my puts. I'm going to honor you, Father. Well, doing the stock market, that's hard. Stock market's always a gamble. I'm sorry, it is. It's gambling. It's cats and lots. However you want to put it, it is. You can have that philosophical argument with the Most High. Especially the way that they're doing it. It is professional gambling. You can have all the charts and everything as much as you want. Guess what? That's not going to help you. Because the moment they decide they want to collapse this economy and go for this digital currency here in July, oh yeah, y'all didn't know about that. Digital currency rollout, July, not February, not March, not April. See, the crash is down here in April. The rollout's now in July. Don't worry about everything being expensive. We have goods that'll be made in America, ration goods that should be able to cover you and your family of 4 to 8 to whatever. That'll be covered under UBI. They have the system, they have the game. Because they know that for a majority of our people, when we deal with things that's tough, we'll walk away. No, it's not worth it. It's not worth my sanity. It's not worth my health. It's not worth my effort. Yesterday, the person I worked with, a sub, long-term sub, same as I, she took a day off. So they brought in another sub. I introduced myself to the sub. It was obviously as a Hebrew lady. I introduced myself. I said, hey, if you have any problems, any concerns, don't be afraid to let me know. You know, you try to help. You try to help one another. Especially another Hebrew. Brother and sister. That's just how it goes. After the first period, I could tell that there was going to be problems. She was trying to get the kids to calm down. Those kids were not listening. I had been disturbed in my lesson plan, you know. But I went over to help and I said, okay, let's go. I said, all right, if you don't have time to go, then you're just going to have to go to the office. Let me go ahead and call. The kids packed up, they left. Second period, I'm in my planning period doing some grades. And it had gotten wild. And I'm trying to wonder if the teacher is going to, you know, ask for help. The third period, I see the teacher. She's done. No, she's done. And I said, "Is everything good?" She said, "I can't do this." By fourth period, it wasn't even lunchtime. She was gone. She was gone. And here's the thing, I don't fault her. I can't blame her. Because dealing with the kids that I deal with, look, when they call it tier one, tier two, tier three, when they call this a tier three school, this is the school that you go to before you go to an alternative school. They call it a C-level school. Half the kids can read. One of the kids that was there been trying to help unlock his knowledge, his potential. His dad had passed away. He had been homeless, in and out of shelters in Miami for the last 2 years. His brother's around my age. Talk about an age difference, almost 30 years. His brother had left a note. Can you please help out my brother? And I said, no problem. I said, I'm going to pay special attention to him and we're going to get him to where he needs to be. He always kept saying, Mr. Copeland, Mr. Copeland, I know what I want to say. It's just hard to get it out of me. I said, don't worry. I said, relax. I said, relax. It'll come to you, but relax, because you got to do what? You have to know yourself and know your abilities. And I have to give the little anecdote. I said, this is what I do. When I'm facing something, I say I pray about it. Now, you don't have to do what I do, but that's something I do. That's something I believe. And I've had great success with that. Whenever I get stuck, whenever I get any type of a mental block, I sit back, I relax, and I say, and I pray. I say, thank you that I'm going to overcome this block. You want to say more, but then you technically start proselytizing, and then they can fire you from there. So I have to do it in a very, non denominational format. I said, that's what I do. And I said this to this young man a couple of weeks ago. And he had began to get out of his shell and he began to develop and develop and develop. We're going through a passage that's going to be on part of the assessment test. And he was knocking out all the words, all the vocabulary, because they're at a pretty higher level. One of the kids on in there, he starts to get mad. He said, how do you know all these words? Let me tell you, he is not us. He is not a Hebrew. And I just thought to myself, oh, here we go, opposition. Because he's also my opposition too. Don't get it twisted. The devil uses who he uses, and it don't matter who it is, because this was a kid I've had some run-ins with. And I told him, I said, listen, don't worry about what he's doing. He's getting what he knows the answers. I said, maybe you need to worry about how to get on his level. And then when I said that, the kid that had the problem with the Hebrew boy that was starting to get courageous and started to have understanding of who he was and started to know his knowledge and his worth, you had opposition right there. I don't care what type of white supremacy you have in whatever mixed amalgamation of Mexican and Caucasian. Not going to happen. And I said, why are you even trying to come in and stop his progress? I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. I said, yes, you are. Let him cook. Let him keep going. Because why? Because the other students are listening and they're trying to figure out things too, because he's knowing the information. And then he kept talking back to me, and that's when I got mad. I said, you need to be quiet. I need to be quiet. Like, understand. I have to tell him, I said, understand when you're talking under your breath, when you're talking out the side of your mouth, out the side of your neck, you're still talking. You are still vocalizing. You are still emitting a sound of disrespect. I said, do you hear yourself? I have the desk lined up in a row. I sit kind of catacorny to him, offset, not directly in front of him, but offset. I said, do you hear yourself? Do you even understand what you even sound like? Keep in mind, I wasn't even in front of him. He said, you need to get out my face. I said, get out your face. I said, oh, what? I said, you know what? You know what? Before you get laid out, you know what? Like, what? I said, who's going to lay me out? You know what happened? No, what will happen? I said, you're going to know what's going to happen. I said, go ahead, grab your stuff, get up on out of here. And you're going to get a disciplinary referral for threatening a teacher. I don't anticipate him in my class. See, I understood white supremacy in the many forms that it comes in. Don't get it twisted. You have agents of white supremacy. But you know what I wasn't going to do? I wasn't going to let him intimidate our young brother that was trying his hardest to get back on academic track. And he came out of his academic shell and he was moving. Oh, yeah, the kids are that bad. I had to save a kid's life literally like 2 weeks ago. He almost died. all concussed, darn near died. And if I didn't do the right thing, guess what? That would have come back on me. He's like, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm good. No, I'm good. I said, no, you need to go to the hospital. I said, I'll watch the class, and I asked another teacher to take him. She took him. The very next day, or that weekend that had passed, I see him coming down the hall. I said, how are you doing? I can't violate his HIPAA. He said, I'm all right. I said, well, be careful. I said, because, you know, if you had something that what happened to you had occurred, you just have to be very careful. I said, all right. He's like, yeah, all right, I got you. His friend was with him. And his friend had asked, like, what was Mr. Copeland asking you? He said, he asked because I almost died last week. These kids don't even understand the severity. When I talked to the other teacher, she said, yeah, he just got released from the hospital the day before, and then he's back in school. He had been in the hospital the whole weekend, and he's right back to school. That just kind of goes to tell you what those parents think about their own kids. For real, that's it. So who is going to be the guardian redeemer for this generation coming? This is why I say, family, we have to get this thing done. It's on my heart. Yeah, who else put it on my heart? We got to get this thing done by the 15th, by next week. If you don't have any funds to give, guess what? Take this link down, copy this link down, visit qtua.org. And share that with people. Share it. Because honestly, we don't have any other time. We don't have any time. We don't have time. So yeah, family, I started late, but looks like I'm gonna be wrapping it on up pretty quickly. I don't have to tell you what's happening on out there. Most people know. Whether or not you're paying attention to it, no, that's a whole different matter. But with that said, that's all I have today, family. And with that, most high willing, and hopefully my voice will get a little bit better. I'll see you tomorrow. With that, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.